You ever think your neighborhood's HOA is a little over the top? Well, how about fake HOA, cops slamming your teenage daughter into the concrete, and then finding out you're the warden of the jail they're about to rot in? Yeah, that's what happened. And let me tell you, karma sometimes wears a badge too. It all started a few months ago, when my family moved into what was supposed to be a peaceful, tight-knit community tucked away in a sleepy town outside Savannah, Georgia. Freshly mowed lawns, American flags flapping proudly on front porches, and neighbors who smiled a little too wide for comfort. Now, if you've ever dealt with an HOA, you know, they love three things: power, petty rules, and pretending they are more important than they really are. At first, it was the usual nonsense. A passive-aggressive letter because our trash can sat 6 inches past the driveway line. A $50 fine for my wife's garden gnome allegedly disrupting the visual harmony of the street. A warning that my daughter's sidewalk chalk drawings were graffiti. Yep, apparently a few doodles of sunflowers and smiley faces posed an imminent threat to the property values. We laughed it off. We thought it was just bored retirees with too much time and too little sense. We were wrong because Karen? Yes, of course her name was Karen wasn't satisfied with writing angry letters. No, sir. She decided to form her own neighborhood patrol unit, a few bored HOA board members in matching polos strutting around with clipboards and radios like they were guarding Fort Knox. They even bought used Crown Victorias from a police auction, slapped magnetic community enforcement signs on the doors, and started issuing their own fake citations. Now here's the kicker. They weren't even allowed to enforce anything. HOAs in Georgia can't impersonate police. They can't detain people. All they can legally do is send you nasty grams in the mail and fine you. But you know what they say, give a small mind a little bit of power and they'll think they're kings. One Saturday afternoon, it all came crashing down. My 16-year-old daughter, Ellie, was out front drawing a giant chalk mural for the 4th of July block party. Stars, stripes, fireworks, pure Americana. That's when Karen and her merry band of fake officers rolled up lights, flashing radios, squawking like they were raiding a drug den. According to the neighbors who saw it, they stormed our driveways shouting about defacing HOA property. Never mind, it was a public sidewalk and the art was washable. Ellie stood her ground like the stubborn little spitfire she is. That's when one of these wannabe commandos grabbed her arm and shoved her hard. She stumbled backwards down our concrete steps and landed wrong. Real wrong. I got the call while I was at work. Ellie was being rushed to the hospital unconscious. Broken spine. Doctors weren't sure if she'd ever walk again. Imagine getting that call. Imagine seeing your little girl strapped to machines because some HOA thugs thought they were above the law. And that's when they found out who they'd messed with. See, while I might look like your average suburban dad, I'm actually the warden of Chatham County Correctional Facility. Yeah, the jail where they'd be spending the next few years, if I had anything to say about it. And oh boy, I had receipts, security cameras, eyewitnesses, a paper trail of every fake citation they'd ever issued. Let's just say their little kingdom was about to crumble. Now, after Ellie landed in the hospital, you might think the neighborhood patrol would have backed off. Maybe apologized, maybe realized impersonating cops wasn't a cute hobby after all. Nope. Karen doubled down. The very next morning, I found a violation notice duct taped to my front door, accusing my injured daughter of property damage and threatening a community official. The nerve was superior. Meanwhile, the HOA Facebook group, because of course there was a Facebook group, was blowing up with rumors. Dangerous family, violent teenager, bad influence on the neighborhood, all fed, of course, by Karen and her little army of clipboard commandos. But here's the thing about people who think they're untouchable. They're really bad at covering their tracks, and I spent the next 48 hours doing exactly what I do best, building a case. First, I pulled footage from every neighbor's security camera. Turns out half the block had Ring doorbells pointed right at our house. Thanks. Suburban paranoia. Next, I compiled every phony citation Karen's crew had issued over the past year, and boy did the pattern jump out. Fining families with biracial kids for unsightly gatherings, targeting young single mothers for excessive lawn clutter, threatening seniors with lien warnings over slightly faded mailboxes. This wasn't about sidewalk chalk or garden gnomes. This was about control, and it was about to end. By Tuesday, I had a thick folder of evidence in hand: impersonation of law enforcement, assault of a minor civil rights violations under HOA, pretense, check, check, and check. I scheduled a meeting with Detective Reynolds at the local police department, a gruff, no-nonsense guy I'd known for years through my work at the prison. Sat down, slid the folder across the table and said, "Tell me how long it'll take to put these clowns in orange jumpsuits." He didn't even blink. "Give me till Friday." Meanwhile, Karen and her goons kept digging their own graves. They actually showed up to the hospital clipboard in hand, trying to serve Ellie with a notice of disciplinary hearing at the ICU entrance. You should have seen the look on the nurses' faces. One called security. Another threatened to shove their clipboard somewhere the sun doesn't shine. Might have been the highlight of my week. Thursday night, the walls really started closing in. That's when Mrs. Donnelly, a sweet widow, 2 houses down, knocked on our door. She'd been silent during all the chaos, but now she handed me a crumpled letter. Turns out Karen had circulated a petition to kick our family out of the neighborhood. Worse, she'd threatened to fine any neighbor who refused to sign. Intimidation, coercion, fraud. By the time Detective Reynolds called me Friday morning, his voice practically crackled through the phone. "Bring your family to City Hall tonight," he said, "and make sure Ellie's feeling strong enough to smile." That evening, they held a special HOA meeting at the community center, normally used for bake sales and CPR classes. Only this time it was packed wall-to-wall with angry neighbors, flashing cameras, and 2 very serious-looking sheriff's deputies at the back door. Karen strutted up to the microphone in her starched blouse, holding a stack of fake violation slips, like she was about to win Employee of the Month. Before she could even open her mouth, Detective Reynolds stepped forward. "Karen Smith, you are under arrest for impersonating a law enforcement officer, conspiracy to commit assault, and multiple counts of civil rights violations." The room went silent. You could hear a lawn sprinkler a mile away. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a dying fish. Her so-called patrol unit scattered like cockroaches. But I wasn't done yet. I took the mic steady, calm, not raising my voice. I trusted this neighborhood. I said, "We moved here for peace, for community, not to be ruled by bullies in khaki shorts and clipboards." I turned to face the neighbors. You all had a choice. Some of you looked the other way. Some of you cheered it on. But now you have a chance to make it right. I held up the letter Mrs. Donnelly had given me. You want real community? It starts with standing up when things get ugly. Several heads dropped in shame. Others started clapping. Real clapping, not the polite HOA kind. Karen, meanwhile, was still sobbing as they handcuffed her and led her out the side door. Oh, and the icing on the cake, because of the severity of the charges, Karen and her top cronies couldn't make bail immediately, which meant, yep, they were processed right into Chatham County Correctional Facility, my jail. Guess who made sure they got the special intake tour? Nothing illegal, mind you, just a full introduction to every security protocol, every search procedure, and every uncomfortable metal bench they could sit on while waiting for their hearing. Irony tastes sweeter when it's served cold. Today, Ellie's recovering like a champ, tougher than ever. She even jokes about drawing her next chalk masterpiece right on Karen's driveway. The HOA board resigned in disgrace. A new sane leadership team is rebuilding the neighborhood's reputation. As for me, I still mow my lawn 1 inch out of regulation just because I can. You'd think spending a few nights in county lockup would knock some sense into a person, especially someone who cried police brutality the moment she got her designer sneakers scuffed. But Karen saw her mugshot and thought, you know what would make this better? Suing the warden. Yeah, you heard me right. Instead of quietly accepting the consequences of impersonating an officer and assaulting a child, Karen decided I was the real villain. Not her clipboard militia. No, me. A week after her arrest, a thick envelope landed in my mailbox. Certified mail. Return address. Some bottom-feeding attorney 3 towns over. I opened it, and there it was in black and white, notice of intent to sue for emotional distress, false imprisonment, defamation of character, loss of HOA position and income. Side note, being a volunteer HOA president doesn't exactly pay 6 figures. Karen's lawyer demanded a public apology, $250,000 in damages, and get this reinstatement to her position on the HOA board. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the porch swing. But jokes aside, I knew better than to underestimate someone willing to humiliate themselves this spectacularly. So I lawyered up too, my buddy Jim, a bulldog of an attorney who makes seasoned criminals cry harder than the judge's gavel. Jim took one look at the paperwork and smirked. She's digging her own grave. Let's hand her the shovel. First, we filed a counterclaim, abuse of process, malicious prosecution, frivolous lawsuit penalties. Then we submitted a full discovery request, all HOA meeting minutes for the past year, every fake citation Karen ever issued, every email she sent smearing my daughter, and security footage from inside the jail during her stay, which showed very clearly that she received exactly the same standard treatment as every other inmate. No special punishments, no mistreatment, just the cold bureaucratic hospitality of Chatham County. The discovery process dragged on for weeks. Karen's lawyer tried every trick in the book to delay motions to dismiss claims of unfair targeting, even demands for emotional support breaks during depositions. But the more they fought, the deeper the hole they dug. And the best part, while Karen was busy preparing her courtroom debut, the state attorney's office decided they had a few extra charges to tack on. Turns out, impersonating a cop in Georgia isn't just a slap on the wrist misdemeanor. If you do it systematically, it's a felony when you use fake authority to coerce or intimidate others. They also uncovered something even worse. Karen had misused HOA funds to buy all the fake patrol gear, the radios, the old cop cars, the badges. She even expensed her personal lunches under community fire-reach fraud misappropriation of funds. Racketeering if you squint hard enough. When her trial date finally rolled around, Karen wasn't strutting anymore. She shuffled into court in a wrinkled suit 2 sizes too big, makeup caked on like spackle, clutching a battered purse like it could ward off the inevitable. The courtroom was packed, not just neighbors but reporters, bloggers, HOA, watchdog groups. It was standing room only. Ellie sat next to me in her wheelchair, a silent, powerful reminder of why we were there. When Karen took the stand, it was like watching a slow-motion car wreck. She sobbed about being a pillar of the community, blamed social media rumors for her downfall, claimed her actions were misunderstood leadership. But then Jim stood up calm and lethal and pulled out exhibit after exhibit, the fake tickets, the doctored HOA memos, the threatening Facebook messages. Each blow chipped away at the sad little facade Karen had built. The jury didn't even need a full day. They found her guilty of impersonating a peace officer, felony battery for assaulting Ellie, misuse of funds harassment. She was sentenced to 4 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and best of all, banned for life from holding any leadership position in any HOA in the state. Oh, and her little civil lawsuit against me tossed out faster than a 2-day-old tuna sandwich. The judge even sanctioned her lawyer for wasting the court's time. Karen was left broke, disgraced and shackled, with a criminal record she couldn't scrub with 1,000 magic erasers. You might think I danced a little victory jig, maybe popped a bottle of champagne. Nope. The best revenge is living well. We rebuilt our lives better and stronger. Ellie worked her tail off in physical therapy, and by the next 4th of July, she was up on her feet again, drawing an even bigger chalk mural. This time with the whole neighborhood helping. No fines, no fake cops, no Karen, just kids. Laughing, parents grilling burgers, and the sweet, sweet sound of freedom. And sometimes when the breeze is just right and the smell of barbecue drifts through the air, I think about Karen, probably sitting in some sad little apartment somewhere, scowling at chalk drawings on the sidewalk, clutching her HOA handbook like a teddy bear. Good riddance. You would think after being publicly humiliated, charged with multiple crimes, slapped with probation, and banned from every HOA leadership position within 100 miles, Karen would finally sit down, shut up, and reflect on her life choices. Right, wrong, Karen may have lost her fake badge and her precious clipboard, but she still had 2 things left: a cheap ballpoint pen and a mountain of misplaced rage. And she was about to weaponize both. It started small. A few neighbors, the ones who testified against her, began finding strange letters in their mailboxes. At first, they were handwritten notes, badly spelled, full of weird threats. Traitor, you will pay for your lies. Your lawn is ugly, just like your heart. Fake friends deserve real enemies. Real Shakespearean stuff. Nobody took it seriously at first. After all, probation conditions clearly stated that Karen wasn't allowed to contact victims or witnesses. But Karen had decided that no contact only applied if she used her real name. Because sure enough, the letters were signed under fake names like Concerned Neighbor Number 1, Anonymous Defender of Justice. The real HOA president. Very subtle. Now I'll give Karen this. She was persistent. When the letters didn't rattle anyone, she upgraded her harassment. Amazon deliveries started showing up at people's houses. 50-pound bags of manure, unsolicited, snake repellent, ugly garden gnomes. Fake Yelp reviews trashed local businesses owned by residents who had supported us. Anonymous tips were called into code enforcement, accusing folks of illegal renovations, unlicensed pets, even underground bunkers. Yes, bunkers. It was like living inside a Lifetime movie written by a drunk squirrel. The final straw came one Tuesday afternoon. Ellie was home alone, still recovering, when she heard a loud knock on the door. No one she knew would knock like that. She checked the Ring camera, and there it was, a giant poster duct taped to our front door in big sloppy Sharpie letters. Terrorists live here. Ho-oh, traitors beware. Ellie called me immediately. I left work faster than a cat on fire. By the time I got home, the poster was gone. Someone must have yanked it down. But the video footage was crystal clear. Karen herself, disguised in a hoodie, 3 sizes too big, sunglasses and flip-flops. As if wearing a Dollar Tree disguise would fool the Ring doorbell gods. I forwarded everything to Detective Reynolds. He didn't even pretend to be surprised. She's violating probation, intimidation, harassment again. He sighed. Want to press new charges? Oh, absolutely, I said. And I might have smiled a little too hard when I said it. The arrest this time wasn't nearly as dramatic as the first one. Karen was picked up at her new job working the night shift at a dollar store on the wrong side of town. When the officers cuffed her again, she apparently screamed, "I'm a community leader. I know my rights." Which, coming from a 2-time felon banned from community leadership, was about as convincing as a wet paper umbrella. Her probation officer recommended revocation, which basically meant Karen was headed back to court to find out if she'd be finishing her original sentence. In actual jail at the hearing, Karen tried to spin another sob story, claimed she was set up, blamed deep fakes for the Ring footage. He insisted the poster was planted to frame her. The judge was not impressed. In fact, he called her behavior a pattern of escalating delusional retaliation. And when he banged that gavel down, it was like music to my ears. Probation revoked, defendant remanded to custody for the remainder of the sentence. Translation: Karen was going to jail. No more cushy probation, no more angry letters, no more fake Facebook groups about neighborhood justice. Just 4 gray walls, a thin mattress, and plenty of time to think about her life choices. The aftermath. It was glorious. The neighborhood practically threw a block party. Balloons, grills, music blasting everything from Johnny Cash to Taylor Swift. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years hugged it out on front lawns. Kids played chalk games again. Whole sidewalks covered in rainbows, dragons, smiley faces. No fines, no harassment, just laughter, burgers, and the sweet, sweet sound of Karen's final defeat. As for Ellie, she rolled through the party like a queen on her throne, her wheelchair decked out in streamers and little American flags. When I asked her what she wanted to do, now that Karen was gone, she grinned and said, "Draw the biggest sidewalk mural this town's ever seen." And she did. That night, under the glow of string lights and tiki torches, half the block helped paint a masterpiece, a giant sprawling tribute to community courage and sweet, sweet freedom. Sometimes late at night, I sit on my porch swing, drink in hand, and think about how all this started. One petty woman, one chalk drawing, one very, very bad decision. And I just smile because when you come after good people with hate and lies, you might win a battle or two. But in the end, the good guys always win. You would think surely by now Karen had learned her lesson. After all, most folks, when life hands them a court record, a revoked probation, and a shiny new jumpsuit, would take the hint and spend their time quietly, maybe reading, maybe crocheting, maybe reflecting on where it all went wrong. But not Karen. Oh no. Karen took one look at jail life and thought, this place could really use an HOA. Now you probably think I'm joking. I wish I were within 2 weeks of her new residency at Chatham County Correctional Facility. Karen decided it was her mission. Her calling really to restore order to the women's cell block. She started small, writing up infractions against other inmates for messy bunk spaces, creating regulation charts for laundry day, trying to assign block captains to oversee compliance. She even designed a handmade citation system, tiny scraps of notebook paper where she scrawled out fake tickets, unauthorized bedspread color or fine, talking after lights out, $10 fine, improper toothbrush, storage mandatory, meeting with block captain. I'm not making this up. This woman tried to start an HOA inside a jail. You almost had to admire the dedication to being terrible. Almost at first, the guards thought it was hilarious. They'd find little violation notices stuck to bunks with toothpaste inmates walking around with Karen's citations pinned to their shirts like badges of shame. But laughter soon turned to annoyance. Because Karen wasn't content just handing out fake fines, she started writing letters. Lots of them, dozens, maybe hundreds. She wrote to the Warden, me, the prison board, local newspapers, state legislators, anyone who might listen. And what was her grand demand? To create a real legally recognized Inmate Standards and Compliance Association inside the prison translation. She wanted to start an official state-backed HOA for prisoners. Now, under normal circumstances, we could have just laughed it off. Inmates have the right to write letters, they have the right to petition. But Karen, bless her heart, couldn't help herself. She didn't just send letters through the proper channels. No, she started smuggling letters out, folding them into library books, hiding them inside legal mail, passing them through kitchen workers. That crossed the line because tampering with prison communication rules. Yeah, that's a felony too. The final straw came when one of the guards found a thick bundle of Karen's compliance notices taped under a recreation table. Inside was a full prisoner governance structure she had mapped out. A president herself, obviously, a vice president of sanitation compliance, a director of inmate conduct and morale, a treasurer, because even in prison, Karen needed someone to collect fake HOA dues. She even drafted bylaws including mandatory quiet hours, approved bunk decor, and a voting system for resolving disputes. Although, funny enough, all votes required Karen's final approval. Naturally, once we recovered the stash, that was it. She was immediately flagged for major rule violations. Within 24 hours, Karen was transferred to solitary confinement. No bunkmates to micromanage, no bunkhouses to fine. No homemade HOA to run, just a cold cell, a metal toilet, and her own thoughts to keep her company. Now, you'd think that would finally shut her down. And it did for a while. But Karen wasn't done trying to cause chaos from the shadows. Turns out, during her brief reign of clipboard terror, she had convinced a couple of gullible inmates to act as her messengers. Even from solitary, she tried to send out more letters through these poor souls, letters full of wild accusations that the prison was violating community standards, that certain guards were unfairly enforcing regulations, that inmates deserved a formal grievance board. It was like watching a sitcom that refused to be canceled. Meanwhile, back in the free world, her antics were starting to leak. Local reporters, hungry for a juicy follow-up to HOA Karen sent to jail, picked up the scent. Articles popped up everywhere. Disgraced HOA president attempts to govern prison block. From sidewalk chalk to solitary, the unbelievable saga of Karen Smith. Woman who terrorized neighborhood tries same tactics behind bars. The comments section was ruthless. Memes exploded all over Facebook. Somebody photoshopped Karen's mugshot onto a Monopoly board. Go directly to jail, do not pass, go do not collect HOA dues. Eventually, the Department of Corrections held a formal disciplinary hearing. Karen, wearing her orange jumpsuit and a scowl that could curdle milk, stood before the board. She tried to argue that she was exercising her First Amendment rights. The panel wasn't buying it. They hit her with additional sanctions: loss of all letter writing privileges, extended solitary confinement, zero eligibility for early release. Karen had managed to accomplish something truly historic. She became the first inmate in Chatham County history to earn extra time for trying to start an HOA. By the time her new sentence was finalized, even her few remaining supporters, the ones who had signed her fake prison bylaws, wanted nothing to do with her. When Karen finally got out years later, she wasn't welcomed back by a grateful neighborhood. She wasn't celebrated as a visionary reformer. She slinked back into a society that only remembered her as the woman who fined children for sidewalk chalk and tried to build an empire inside a jail. And every time she applies for a job, every background check spits out the same glorious truth: convicted felon, criminal impersonation, harassment, tampering with official communications. Today, my neighborhood is thriving. Kids play freely. Neighbors share lemonade and lawnmowers. Chalk murals cover the sidewalks without fear. And Ellie, she's standing tall, smiling wider than ever, about to graduate high school with honors. Sometimes we sit on the porch, sip sweet tea, and wonder whatever happened to Karen. Then we laugh because honestly, we don't care. The world has a funny way of balancing itself out. And some people, they dig their own holes so deep, you don't even need to throw dirt on them. They bury themselves. Some people, when life gives them second, third, fourth chances, they finally get it. They wake up, they change. Karen doubled down. After serving her extended sentence, Karen was released with strict conditions. No leadership roles, no harassment, and no unsanctioned governance activities. In normal English, no more fake HOAs ever. But you know what they say? You can't fix stupid, especially when stupid thinks it's a calling from good. Karen decided she was going to turn her life around by joining a local community gardening group. A simple, harmless, dirt under the fingernails kind of club. Plant some tomatoes, water some flowers, maybe pull a few weeds. You'd think it was safe enough, right? Wrong. Within 2 meetings, Karen had tried to draft garden compliance rules, proposed mandatory tool inspections, suggested fine systems for unsightly vegetable plots. And yes, she even tried to appoint herself president of garden operations. You can't make this stuff up. The other members, sweet retirees, young moms, veterans, they didn't laugh it off like the prison inmates had. No, they shut it down hard. They called an emergency meeting, voted her out unanimously and politely, but firmly escorted her off the community garden property. One of the ladies even handed her a little potted cactus on the way out. You'll need something low maintenance, she said, since you're not good at growing anything but trouble. God bless Southern Shade. After that, Karen kind of disappeared. No more Facebook groups, no more fake citations, no more anonymous hate mail. Every now and then someone would spot her at the Walmart lurking around the clearance aisle, avoiding eye contact, clutching her purse like it contained the last remaining scrap of dignity. And you know what? That's enough justice for me, not because I hate her, not because I want her to suffer, but because real justice isn't about revenge. It's about setting the standard. You don't get to terrorize good people and walk away smiling. Actions have consequences. Even if they're late, even if they're messy, they still come. As for our neighborhood, we're thriving. No HOA overlords, no fake cops, no secret fines taped to mailboxes. Just good people mowing lawns, painting fences, arguing about college football, and bringing casseroles to block parties. Real community, built on kindness, not control. Ellie. She's stronger than ever, talking running. Getting ready to leave for college this fall on a scholarship she earned with the same stubborn fire that carried her through every therapy session. She's even planning to major in criminal justice. I guess dealing with Karen made me realize, she said one night laughing, somebody's got to keep the crazies in check. Kid's got a point. And me, I still sit on that old porch swing some nights, sipping sweet tea, watching the fireflies dance, listening to the laughter drifting over backyard fences. I don't think about Karen anymore. I think about the good people who stood up, the little victories that built something better, the simple power of saying no more and meaning it, because in the end, it's not about taking down the Karens of the world. It's about standing tall when it matters. It's about choosing community over control, kindness over cruelty, courage over fear. Have you ever dealt with a Karen in your life? What would you have done if someone like her tried to take over your neighborhood or workplace? Drop your stories down in the comments. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this saga, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who knows a Karen or two. Because trust me, there's always another chalk drawing kid, another stubborn neighbor, another story waiting to be told. And I'll be right here ready to share it with you.